Thank you to all our viewers who've been watching us and to those who've just joined us. This has been an incredible day of content and discussion. In fact, I want to share a couple of stats with you. More than 14,000 people have already watched us live, and over 5,000 people have published tweets. So awesome how this conversation has extended out onto the social web. Truly international. So I'm your host, Lee Oden, CEO of Top Rank Marketing, and we are now heading into our 30-second presentation of the conference. And I wanted to take a second to run through how the sessions are working today, especially if you just joined us. Every 30 minutes, a marketing expert will give a 15-minute presentation followed by a 15-minute discussion with our special guests. This conference is brought to you by Semrush. And I have to say, I'd like to say Semrush. I'm just saying, I'm Semrush camp. Global Marketing Day has been broadcasting continuously from studios around the world, including Sydney, London, here in New York, and which will be followed by San Francisco. So all kinds of excitement happening. Our next presentation is from Melissa Matlins, VP of Marketing B2B at Vimeo. Melissa spent the last 15 years building marketing teams in tech companies, and as VP Marketing at Vimeo, she leads the demand generation, content, and operations teams. I think we can all agree, more businesses than ever are pivoting their content strategies to video, right? Dive into the world of video with Melissa Martin's presentation, and that's what we're gonna do. So, you wanna make a business video? Yes, actually I do, Melissa. So take it away. Take it away.
Great. Hi. So thank you so much for that introduction. So I won't spend too much time introducing myself. Right now I head up marketing at Vimeo. I focus on helping businesses be successful, making all different kinds of video that help them grow and be more profitable. My background extends from companies, high growth companies in both New York and San Francisco. So hi to all my West Coast folks. Things that I love doing is just building teams and tech stacks, geeking out on data, and also just growing fast. So I'll just back up a little bit, because usually when somebody asks me, I want to make a video for my business, one of the things that I ask them about is like, what are you seeing in the market that makes you think that way? So broadly, what we see in the market is that we're entering a new era for video. It's now possible for any business, whether it's small or a huge enterprise, to create professional video. One of my personal favorites, which I'm showcasing on this page, is Warby Parker's first ever commercial from 2012. And it didn't used to be the case. Video used to be the provenance of art and entertainment, and it was very high stakes, and only Hollywood studios could make it. Now everybody has professional grade tools at their disposal and the ability to distribute that directly to users. So why are they choosing to do this? This is one of my favorite stats, and also the one that keeps me up at night. It's just getting harder and harder to break through using text. So no disrespect to bloggers and many of the folks on this conference, but when we look at the stats, the average American is reading for just under 17 minutes a day and spending almost 2.5 hours with video content. So when you look and think about kind of where and how do I want to get the message out to reach an audience that's going to be meaningful for my business, this is something to think about in context that you should have. So, and video is helping businesses grow. So consumers now expect to see video from every type of business across every channel, and video consumption is driving this kind of growth, not just in terms of purchase power, but also too in driving consumer loyalty, getting closer to different audiences and stakeholders and even their own employees. This picture might resonate with a lot of marketers at this conference. The average business marketer is saying, oh my gosh, now I have to deal with another content and another medium that I'm not familiar with and that feels very inaccessible to me. And I think some of the reason for feeling this way is that there may be some myths and superstitions that you have about what kind of video content that you need to make for your business and what's required to compete in this medium. The reality is your business does need video, no matter what type of business it is, but not every business has to hire Spike Jonze and make a documentary, even though I personally love that kind of content. So I put together a couple myths and things that I tend to hear from the average business marketer about the hurdles that they need to overcome when they think through making a video for their business. The biggest one is that they have sort of a very high bar for what they want the quality and the format to be, and they expect that to be consistent across all of the different types of videos that they produce. They also, in many cases, think that the video will also be the delivery mechanism, that the video can just go viral. The reality is that you need to build that distribution in from the beginning. It can be very high cost. Maybe I can't measure ROI on it. This is just for marketing. Why should HR make a video? Why do my executives need to be on video? Or video is just capturing for posterity versus using video in the moment to engage an audience, as we're doing today. So video can serve a ton of different business needs in reality. And also different flavors of content can coexist on your channels. So this is just an example of how Warby Parker uses different types of customer stories, event videos, product videos, and social, all collected on their Facebook page. Brands have unique audiences. This just means very different production quality, length, style. You can create 15-second videos. Those can live alongside 60-minute videos. And that the promotional longevity, depending on your distribution plan, can vary a lot. So in some cases, you may need a video that's only useful to you for 72 hours on a social channel, and the value and the effort that you'll put into that video may look very different from something that you're going to produce that's as high stakes as a product video that will stay around for 12 months. So all of this really depends on your distribution strategy, and like any other piece of content, that distribution strategy needs to be focused and unique in order to be effective. So 1 minute. Video fundamentally, like any other piece of content, needs a distribution plan. So what I typically hear is everyone thinks that making the video is the hard part. The reality is like most marketing, it's the distribution of the video, leveraging that medium as part of that message to make sure that you yield value from that video as a business. So customizing the length, the format, and sometimes using the same asset many, many different times across your different channels is really, really important, thinking through how you want that message to be delivered and what's going to be meaningful to that particular user cohort. And then building that video into your offline channels as well. So thinking through, is this something that I want to show at an event? Is this something that I want to show to somebody in person? Is this something that my sales team could use? One of the things that I really like talking about that I think is very underrated for businesses today is live video. So one of the most valuable things about live video is it can engage your audience in that moment, that the video, that you're acting, happening, taking an action, announcing something. When it's only happening one time, using live video can magnify your reach, and it's very critical to many stakeholders of a business, not necessarily just customers and users, but also, say, distributors, different stakeholders in your business, partners, or even your own employees, to deliver that message in real time and not as a recording. So one of the quotes that I love is from Mark, which is the marketing manager at Nikon. It's not just an add-on or a bolt-on to an event strategy. It can actually be a very key part of your event strategy, or in the case of this conference, the event strategy to get people to tune in and engage with your brand. So one of the things that I think is a lot of businesses miss is that video isn't just for your customers and just for your users. If you think about all of the different audiences that could benefit from this this type of content vehicle, employees that aren't necessarily at HQ, new and onboarding employees that may not have business context to be successful without it, partners, influencers, and all of the different types of events that happen in your business where that real time is valued, it can be really, really expansive and freeing to start think of using video as a medium in all of these different ways and how it could benefit your comm strategy. So my recommendation is use video for all of the expected things, but also think through what are the unexpected ways that I could be using video in my business to be successful, and also to make those in my network, the employees, the partners, the stakeholders in my business more successful as well. So my recommendation, it's time for most businesses and marketers to start thinking, wait a second, would video work better for this? That can take many different forms. Think distribution strategy first, create once, try to share many times. Think through live video and how that can help your business, and think of all of your stakeholders. So really quickly, you can find Vimeo at Vimeo.com, no surprise there. You can find me on LinkedIn at Melissa Matlins. So thanks very much, and I'm happy to take any questions from the marketers on this call.
Great. Well, thank you, Melissa. Yeah. So, of course, after that great presentation, we now have time for a lively discussion with our expert panel. And I want to introduce Zohar Dayan, CEO of co-founder of Wibbits, and along with him is John Morabito, Director of SEO at Stella Rising. All right, great. So here's a question. First question for you guys. A lot of companies are tentative about video because they're worried about the I forget the director's name that you mentioned, but some fancy
Spike Jones.
Yeah, Spike Jones produced sort of video. So like, So what's a reasonable place to get started for a brand or for an organization that has that sort of tentativeness or hesitancy?
Yep, sure, okay, yeah. I mean, I
would say both.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of something that I think virtually could apply to virtually every business, doesn't require high production quality, but could have pretty much instant business impact, would be testimonial videos. So I've worked with dentists, I've worked with even, higher sort of like B2B type industries where just simply an iPhone or a DSLR camera that you can pick up for $500 that you can keep around the office. And when you have clients or you have someone in the office, take a moment to get their experience. It doesn't, again, need to be a high production value. It can just be like iPhone footage.
Great.
Yeah, and I think like Melissa mentioned, a lot of marketers are very intimidated when it comes to creating videos, and the reasons are very obvious. I'm sure some of you have had experience with opening up programs like Adobe After Effects or Final Cut Pro, and you really don't know where to start. And I feel like a lot of these marketers have had that experience and are kind of scared to go back. And I think it's really about jumping into the water and really trying to leverage new tools that are out there that can really help you jumpstart your video creation strategies, whether it's content inspiration or existing templates or different tools that make it much more accessible and much easier for the average user that doesn't have any professional experience with producing video content. And really kind of bringing a lot of those capabilities to be standard in-house.
Yeah, great. I'm sure those of you who are joining in have lots of questions for our panel. So please make sure you go to globalmarketingday.com, post your question there, or you can also use the conference hashtag Global Marketing Day and post your question that way as well. So here's another question related to repurposing video. You in fact, I think, Melissa, you said publish once and promote many times or something to that effect. Do you have any ideas about an approach for that? You know what I mean? As far as an architecture or model or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you need to build that approach in when you're creating the video. Only because, to use the testimonial video example, very often if you ask for a testimonial, the first time somebody says a phrase or talks about your business, they may give you almost more content than you want, and then later on when you need to create a spot for social and chop that down to a 15-second spot, if you didn't think about that at the time that you were capturing the video, you may struggle to get just the right phrase. So there's certain peculiarities to video that it's not just as simple as editing down a blog post into a tweet. Like, you need to make sure at the moment of capture that you've already assumed, I'm going to use this for social, I'm going to use this in this way, I'm going to use this in this way. And if you do that effectively, you can have everything from a 20-minute video that you may actually want playing in the background at a conference to a 15-second spot that you can also use for social. But you have to think of that when you do it.
Think of that as repurpose on purpose, right?
Yes.
It's the magic is in the planning. So I have a question for you, Zohar. This is from the live stream. So for my company, we've tried both low quality videos on purpose, okay, mobile and on the go. So low quality videos that were mobile on the go, and high quality with camera and lights. You know what? No difference in engagement or retention. So I don't know if that's so much a question or is a statement. What do you think about that?
I don't find that surprising at all, actually. I think it's very true, and it goes to what we've heard in Melissa's presentation, where quality doesn't necessarily mean higher engagement or better performance, and it really depends on where you're engaging your users, what platform. There are different expectations. Even when it comes to repurposing, you really need to think about what is the expected result or the expected form of video that users are expecting on every different platform. And I think, maybe on social media platforms, especially Snapchat and Instagram or Instagram stories, that more authentic kind of look and feel may work better, it may work the same as a professionally produced video. I also think that you don't have to choose one or the other. I think there is a wide spectrum, and if you don't want to compromise on the very low quality UGC mobile on-the-go content, it doesn't mean you have to build an in-house studio like this with lights and professional cameras, but you can do it at a very, very in a very affordable way and cost-effective to really drive engagement and really high performance.
Yeah, with a little bit of homework, I suppose you can understand what it is that your opportunities really are for on the go or more formal, right? Right. John, here's a question for you. Have you noticed whether there are any industries that benefit from videos more than others? That's from the live stream.
I can't say that I've had experience building video and testing it and distributing it for every industry, but I will say that I feel like one of the areas that I've noticed video be extraordinarily successful is around e-commerce, product, particularly technology. One of the ways that I sort of stumbled into video was through the whole review world, right? And headphone reviews, quite frankly. And so I think that, if you see, to your point earlier about what the market's doing, right? If you see a lot of other people doing those types of videos, then that could be a good indication for you.
So here's another question from the stream. How do you measure ROI? This is for everyone. How do you measure ROI of video?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that we often see brands missing is when you put your link in your YouTube video, use a UTM, right? And it sounds pretty basic, but a lot of people miss this. And so I would say make sure that you're not relying on Google Analytics to pick up what channel that actually came from. People are on mobile devices, people are, so some of that referral data might be lost. UTMs are a great way to help that. I would say also one thing I've done is have a specific call to action. So you might have like a vanity URL in your ad, and you might say, head to something.com/YT, right? And now you're driving people to a specific page that you can then quantify, because of course, as you mentioned, your brand name, people are then going to go search from a brand perspective. So I'd say those are two ways that I look to do that.
Okay, super. Another question from our audience. What are some ideas on topics to go live on, and how often should a small business go live?
I think it's a good and it's an interesting question. I think we're still at the very sort of early stage of people discovering how live can benefit their business. But I think one of the things that I think about a lot is if this is something that's only happening once, do you think that there's an audience out there that would resonate, like where that message would resonate, right? So one of the really interesting things that we tend to see is businesses that have events and conferences think about all of these events and conferences in-person audience first, almost. That's what they're optimizing for. Yet when a company like LinkedIn live streams Talent Connect, their audience can be massively larger online than it can actually be in person. The same thing with Dreamforce and like all of the big tech conferences. Yeah. So for them, it unlocks access to an audience that is never going to be able to come to San Francisco, is never going to be able to take 5 days off, is never going to be able to have that experience, but can have a very rich experience when they're viewing something live online. Yeah. So I think events are a very obvious one, but think about the events and the occurrences and the things that are happening inside your company as well, and whether or not it would be meaningful for employees that can't be in person at those events to also feel like they're participating in some way. So start with really basic things like all hands and weekly meetings. If those are happening right now as audio only, can you add more richness to those events with video? Okay,
great. Zohar and John, what about an argument for episodic content with video, right? I'm starting to see, like even on LinkedIn, people putting up shows, whether it's live or just pre-recorded, which is kind of interesting, and they come in all different flavors in terms of production value. What do you think the argument is for that or against it?
In my opinion, it's another way to drive engagement and returning users. If you're creating good content and you're able to create a franchise out of that, then it's definitely something that could be very valuable. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be external facing too. It could be an episodical internal communications types of programming as well, whether it's employee spotlights or customer spotlights, testimonials, as well as external ones. And I think you need to go back and zoom out and think, what is your strategy? What are the jobs to be done when it comes to producing the content in the first place?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the question earlier about where to start, once you have that thread to start pulling on, something that's episodic in nature, it almost will lead you into that next idea about what it is that you want to focus on. And of course, I would echo your point that it helps to build an audience.
Well, here's a question related to, B2B, I suppose.
Sure.
You don't often see videos used on landing pages. And so there's kind of a two-part question, I guess. One is, do you think there's utility to having a preview video of some kind on a landing page where you're capturing form information?
Yep.
And then the other question is, do you think it makes sense to ever gate a video itself? Like, would anyone have the patience to, provide information to watch a video that is hopefully robust in content?
Yeah, I mean, one of the areas that I started out in marketing was around like the info product world. So I can tell you certainly people will absolutely give you an email to watch a video for sure. And the idea of a video on a landing page is something that definitely have done with a lot of brands. It's not necessarily a B2B example, but one great example of that is when you create a video talking about reappropriation, right? We do a lot of transcribing of the video. So thinking about how you can repurpose that video as you're creating it, some people do still read, right? And so to have like an SEO landing page, so to speak, where you can have that video, have the title, but then also have some content for the bots, that we've seen to be pretty effective in like taking a video and then turning it into a landing page that's going to drive traffic, in addition to that video being out in YouTube or Vimeo or any of these other places.
Yeah. Well, that kind of begs another question about embeddable versus your own native. Or,
great question.
What's the argument there?
I mean, just real quick, like YouTube views and engagement is a ranking factor within the YouTube algorithm. YouTube's the second largest search engine in the world, so I'm putting my eggs into that basket in terms of where I want to drive people so that I can get benefit on the other side algorithmically.
Okay. Do you have, here's from the listeners, readers, what am I saying? Viewers, there we go. Finally found it. 3 strikes, I'm on out. Favorite video? Favorite video in general, favorite business video? Is there a video that, like, if you're like, oh, this is or what's the last video you shared with someone, that just really stood out to you?
That's a good question.
That's a tough question. I mean, I think the last video I shared was the most recent How Google Works video, if I'm not mistaken. But usually for me, I will say it's the video that I feel the urge to share is something that I've learned something from, because I got that aha moment, right? And I want to turn around and I want to share that with other people. And so I think if your aim is to provide information, make sure that you're really giving people that like sort of agnoresis moment, and then that should beget that sharing.
Sure. Just as we're wrapping up here, any takeaways, any like parting tips that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, I think like we mentioned before, video is not just a nice to have anymore. And I think all companies of different sizes, every business today has to have a digital content strategy, and they have to have a video strategy. I think it's an expectation today from viewers, and you need to really attract and engage your users in the right way. And while saying that, going back to what we said before, there isn't kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. You really need to tailor the content exactly to the platform or to the experience that your users are expecting. And I think with the increasing demand, whether it's through different platforms or devices that we find all around us today, everywhere you turn there's a screen, whether you're in a taxi cab, in a bus station, in your kitchen, and I think tailoring the right experience for every type of situation is going to be key in the future for every type of business, from small to medium-sized businesses to top-tier, huge enterprise types of companies as well.
Okay. What about you, John?
For me, I mean, we didn't touch on it, but one of the areas that I've seen video marketers be successful is actually in globalizing. So taking global marketing day, right? This is fitting. But one example, I'm thinking back of that headphone review channel that I actually helped start. The English version's at 17,000 subscribers or something right now, whereas they started a Spanish language one 3 years after the first channel. That's up to 117,000 subscribers right now. So basically, this is a US market business that identified a hole in, sort of Latin America in terms of these headphone review videos, brought in people. Now they're doing Korean, Portuguese, Chinese, and Russian. And so just think about, is there global opportunity for your content? It's not necessarily translating it, but getting someone of that, who speaks that language as a first language to come in and basically redo the video for that market.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. We were joined by Melissa Matlins, VP of Marketing B2B at Vimeo, who I hope is feeling much better. Also, Zohar Dayan, CEO and co-founder at Wibbits, and John Morabito, Director of SEO at Stella Rising. Thank you very much for your insights, and please continue to share your tips and your questions or whatever you have to engage us with on the conference hashtag Global Marketing Day, or of course at globalmarketingday.com.